my role is more highlighting the most important questions and also maybe adding a few points that I think should be mentioned as well. And I think you were starting from the role of the South African state, also ending with the role of the state, and I think it's also important to look a bit more on the international climate and to understand why South Africa is acting like that. And I think it's important to look at the global economic context and also the historical global economic context. And I think we cannot underestimate the role that the Washington Consensus played for South Africa and also for the global mining economy. And I think most of you know that the pressure on South Africa in the 1990s, the era of neoliberalization was high, and it played an important role in the implementation of the growth employment and redistribution program. But it also played an important role in the mining economy, not only in South Africa, but also in sub-Saharan Africa. And I found some figures, for example, under pressure of the World Bank between the mid-1980s and between 1995, more than 35 countries in sub-Saharan Africa had reworked their mining legislation. 35 countries. They were supported by the World Bank and other financial institutions, and in most cases, I'd say it led to a privatization of different components of the mining sector, which you already mentioned as well for South Africa. It watered down standards, especially social and environmental legislation, and I think this explains also why many people live in horrible conditions in mining communities. I mean, Caroline will probably talk about that tomorrow, the role of women in mining communities. And of course, the idea was to attract foreign direct investment, and that worked perfectly well, because between 1991 and 1998, it's only 7 years, foreign direct investment in the mining sector in sub-Saharan Africa had increased from 4% to 17.5%. And I think this shows that this policies worked to attract foreign capital. I'm very glad that we have two people tomorrow talking about the role of financialization of the mining sector, because honestly, I'm really trying to understand it, but it's almost impossible because it's so intransparent. And we were, talking about it. How does that work? Which strategies are being used by companies? And I find it very difficult to understand. And I think it's important to see that countries such as Switzerland play an important role in that, with having traders here. And I hope that Dick and Dominic Kroos can talk about it tomorrow, that we also understand this a bit better. And I think what we can see, or the big question is, who benefits? When we look at the role of resistance or the strategies of resistance in mining communities, you can see it almost everywhere. You can see it in the platinum sector, in the coal mining sector, in the gold mining sector. So it's really almost a global thing, and not only in South Africa. I mean, I've been to Ghana in March in gold mining communities. They really struggle to get anything out of it. It hardly creates jobs. Gold mining companies even bring all their supplies from other countries. So these are desperate communities who really struggle, and they don't benefit from the extractivist model at all. And I think it's also important to understand how successful are resistance approaches and how successful are communities in resisting big companies. How dangerous is that? We'll see that in the movie tomorrow. What can we do probably to support communities in their struggle against mining? And it relates to what you said, to power and justice. How can we strengthen communities in their fights? yes, so it is the sad point probably. Even though you said that we are very far away from having a strong state, I think it is really important to ask the questions, how can South Africans reclaim the state? And I mean in the sense that the state is responsible for the well-being of its people. And that is not only a question for South Africa, I think that is a question for many other countries where the state probably lost control of its industry. And very often, I mean, we said that many governments, they don't do anything, they do not want to regulate, but not regulating is also a way of engagement, because you just let it happen and just let it go. And it's not that easy to say, well, it's we need to have a free market, so we also have to ask, how can we strengthen the role of the state? And how can we identify, I'd say, successful and also non-authoritarian strategies to do that? And unfortunately, Latin America is not the best example at the moment, where some countries started to explore a neo-extractivist model which was supposed to benefit communities, but it didn't really happen. So we need to think about that. Is it possible to have a democratic extractivist model, or is it maybe just not possible because it is, yeah, like you said, it is a difficult thing already. Okay, and then this is my last point. I don't think that we can really touch on that in the next hours and in the next day. But I think one of the most important questions is also the future of productions and of production and the role of technologies. Everything is getting bigger. I mean, in South Africa, it's the Poneng mine, the gold mine. I think is that Poneng is the word. The deepest gold mine, and if you watch the advertisements for the technologies, it's just incredible how what mining technologies can do already. But is that really the future of our world? And I think we also need to talk about ways of recycling. Like there are ideas such as urban mining, where you really look what you can take out of cities, so you don't need to dig holes in the ground anymore. What is there already? The resources that are in the cycle already. And also we need to think more about the substitution of resources, and it is easy with coal because we can replace that. But it is not that easy with resources such as copper, which cannot easily be replaced. So I think if we go on like that with our economic model, we somehow need to think about what can be done. If we cannot substitute commodities, and how can we deal with that? And probably, and this is something that I think will be important to all of us for probably the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we need to think about degrowth and maybe another economic model. But we'll see if we can do that tomorrow. These are my 5 points. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melanie, for opening the ground for questions, throwing questions at us. And of course, we are sitting here in Switzerland, and we are